There's a huge shift happening right now in sustainability, and it's way bigger than just another reporting trend. It's actually changing how businesses have to operate from the ground up. We are leaving the era of storytelling and entering the era of proof.
This one sentence, this is the earthquake. Seriously. For years, ESG has been all about crafting that perfect, compelling annual report. Well, that's over. This single change completely rewrites the rules of the game for every C-suite, every board of directors out there.
So, what does this actually mean for how things get done? It means that all the old ways of managing ESG data, the scattered spreadsheets, the consultant dashboards, that mad scramble at the end of the year to pull a PDF together, that's not just inefficient anymore. It's now a major business risk.
The new baseline, the new expectation, is what we're calling audit-grade data. And this is non-negotiable. Regulators, investors, even your biggest customers, they're all demanding sustainability data that is every bit as reliable as your financial numbers. Think about that. The same rigor from the CFO's office is now being applied to the Chief Sustainability Officer.
And this, of course, creates a problem. We can call it the assurance gap. And it's this really dangerous space between how most companies are doing things today and what's going to be absolutely required tomorrow. Let's break it down. The legacy approach is totally reactive, right? It's all about looking in the rearview mirror and explaining what happened last year. The new assurance-ready model is proactive. It's continuous. It's not about creating a report at all. It's about running a system with controls and real-time traceability built in. It's basically the difference between a history book and a live dashboard with a complete, unbreakable audit trail. Okay, so how in the world do you bridge that gap? Well, I can tell you, you don't just go out and buy a new piece of software and call it a day. You have to design an entire system from the ground up. You need what we are calling an architecture of proof. And this right here requires a really fundamental shift in your thinking. The goal is no longer to create a report. The goal is to create a living, breathing, controls-driven system, where a perfect, defensible report is simply the natural output. The report becomes the byproduct of a system that's already running smoothly, not the entire goal of the project itself. So this new architecture, it's really built on 4 core pillars. Let's walk through them. We've got data lineage, internal controls, segregation of duties, and an automated policy engine. First up, data lineage. This is the absolute bedrock. It's the ability to click on any number in your report, let's say your Scope 1 emissions, and see its entire life story. Where did the raw data come from? Who touched it? What math was applied to it? And who signed off on it? If you can't do that, you have no proof. It's that simple. And this is exactly why data lineage is so tough. I mean, ESG data isn't sitting in some nice, clean database. It's a messy, chaotic mix of everything from utility bills and sensor readings to supplier surveys and HR systems. A truly assurance-ready system has to be able to tame all this complexity and create one single traceable path for every single data point. All right, let's move on to pillar number 2, internal controls. These are basically the checks and balances that make sure your data is accurate. But, and this is a big but, ESG controls are different from financial ones. They have to be smart enough to handle data that might be an estimate or based on a sample, or even provided by a third party. It's all about managing that uncertainty in a way you can defend. Okay, this all sounds great in theory, but let's get real. The auditor shows up at your door. What do they actually want to see? I can promise you it is not a slick PowerPoint presentation. They want answers to questions just like these, and they want them instantly. How did you get that energy data? What exact formula turned it into CO2 equivalent? When was that conversion factor last updated? Who checked for weird anomalies in the data? How did you fill in the gaps? A mature system doesn't mean you have to scramble to find the answers. The answers are already embedded right there in the data's lineage. Our third pillar is a classic, straight out of the finance playbook: segregation of duties. It's such a simple but incredibly powerful rule. The person who enters the data for, say, waste management cannot be the same person who approves it, period. This builds trust and integrity into the process long before an external auditor even walks in the door. And that brings us to our final pillar, the policy engine. This is where your corporate governance really comes to life. So instead of your sustainability policy being some dusty PDF living on the company intranet, it becomes a set of automated, machine-readable rules.
All market-based emission factors must be updated annually is no longer a calendar reminder for someone. It's a system-enforced task.
So when you actually put these 4 pillars together, what you have isn't just a new reporting tool. You have an entirely new operating model for how your company handles sustainability.
And this is where the crucial cultural shift happens. ESG stops being the sole responsibility of the sustainability team. Instead, accountability gets distributed across the entire organization to the very people who actually control the data and the outcomes day to day.
So what does that look like in practice? Well, the HR department now truly owns the diversity and safety data. The folks in manufacturing own the emissions data. Procurement owns the supplier data. And that central ESG team, their role shifts. They become the architects and the conductors of the orchestra, not the ones playing every single instrument.
Okay, so you've done all this work. You've built the architecture, you're changing the culture. What's the payoff? Well, it all comes down to one word: defensibility.
You see, an assurance-ready system does more than just manage risk. It actually creates this powerful, virtuous loop that delivers real, tangible business value.
Let's follow it around. It all starts with reliable data. That reliable data builds trust with your investors and with regulators. That trust allows you to be much more transparent. And that transparency, it attracts capital, often at a lower cost. And with that capital, you can then invest to accelerate and improve your actual sustainability performance, which, of course, generates even more reliable data. And the loop continues.
At the end of the day, the result is a massive shift from ESG being a marketing exercise to it being a core part of business performance. It's simple human nature. When people know their sustainability numbers are going to be audited with the same rigor as the financial numbers, they manage them with that same rigor. It becomes about verifiable accountability.
So if there is one thing to take away from all this, it's the shift in mindset. The companies that continue to treat ESG as just a documentation exercise are going to get left behind. But the ones that operationalize it with the same discipline they use for finance, they're not just going to survive this shift, they're going to thrive because of it.
And that really leaves us with one final critical question for you to think about for your own organization. In this new era of mandatory assurance, is your ESG program just a compelling narrative, or is your data truly defensible?